Hey guys, it's Matt. Thanks for downloading the latest episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. Quick note before we get started, if you can't tell by the sound of my voice, I'm a little sick. It's, cold weather and all that. This episode, actually, me and Tiny, we're both, Tiny and I, we're both sick, so there's several coughs throughout it, but we're pretty good about keeping away from the mic, so hopefully I couldn't edit them out or anything, but they're there, so hopefully they're not too big of a distraction. Other thing you'll notice is that we used some new music this week. The song, if you like it, is called An Eclipse of Events. It's by the band Star Tissue. You can find them on SoundCloud, and they're pretty awesome, and we appreciate them letting us use their music. So without further ado, here's the episode. Hope you enjoy it.
All right. Okay. Hey, listeners, and welcome to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. I am Mike White, and you can follow me on Twitter at I am Mike White. I'm joined, of course, by my dear friends Matt and Tiny, who are on Twitter at Obsessive Viewer and at Obsessive Tiny, respectively. Before we get into things, I want to remind everyone to check out the complimentary blog, obsessiveviewer.com. You can like us on Facebook or send us love mail or hate mail at ovpodcast@gmail.com. Finally, we want to take our turn at shout out tag and tell you guys to check out our friends at The Nerds You're Looking For podcast. They've put out 2 episodes so far, and they've said some nice things about us and Matt specifically, and I'm really excited to see where they go. I'll also pay it forward as well, and shout out to the guys in the comedy group Hoi Polloi. They're putting their videos up on Funny or Die and YouTube, and you can check them out on Facebook at Hoi Polloi Entertainment or Funny or Die, and we're hoping to have them on the podcast soon. So let's dive in. Today we're talking about tragedy off the screen. Last week was on the screen, and we'll conclude the trilogy next week with notable dog deaths on screen.
It's not the emo viewer.
Yeah, that's right.
Or a listener or whatever.
It's super somber all of a sudden.
Yeah, making sure everyone's all nice and depressed for the holidays.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll probably do like a Christmas one next week, right? So if
next week is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're thinking about leaving the show because it's just too damn sad, please don't. Anyway, what we're doing is because Paul Walker just died on, was it November 30th?
Yeah, it was Saturday, wasn't it?
It was Saturday, just recently. And not that any of us would consider ourselves big Paul Walker fans, but word around the internet was that he was a great guy. We all appreciated his movies. I've said She's All That is one of my favorite movies, and I stand by that. And so we're going to kind of talk about celebrity deaths or celebrities who left us too early that really affected us. So let's do it.
Awesome.
Who wants to start?
Let's go. Get going. Who wants to start? Tiny, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah, I can go ahead and start.
Okay.
The first actor I wanted to bring up, he passed away a few years ago. The actor's named Brad Renfro. The reason I wanted to bring him up is because I feel like he's a very underappreciated actor, especially when he was alive. He was one of the few actors who successfully, transitioned from being a child actor into an adult actor, which, it's not easy to do. And I feel like he had a lot to offer. He was really impressive as a child actor, and he transferred that really well into being an adult. It's so many times you'll see kids and they aren't very good, but he was an exception to that. His last film was The Informers in 2008. Which was an okay movie.
Sorry. The Informers. I was falling asleep throughout it, but all I remember of it is waking up to seeing Amber Heard naked, like throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, she's naked like the whole movie. That's the only good thing about it. But
Brad Renfro.
Yeah, it's a very, very nice eulogy I'm giving him.
Yeah.
But no, he was. There was another great movie he was in called 10th and Wolf that I think is a really underrated film as well that a lot of people haven't seen. It's a crime film, but he was just a really talented actor, and he unfortunately he had quite a problem. He was killed from an overdose of heroin. You know, it's kind of a classic scenario, I guess you could say. Just it's just one of those things. I think that artistic people just, you know, sometimes they feel like their suffering influences their art, and maybe he was one of those people. But I don't know. You know, it's like I said, his death was very underreported and very kind of ignored a lot. Like for example, in the Oscars that year, the In Remembrance section, he wasn't even mentioned, which really made me mad.
Well, I wonder if you look at the box office, really the only big thing he did was Apt Pupil. You know, that was kind of super notable and kind of recognized in the industry as something of note, was Apt Pupil, and that came out 10 years before he died. So I think I wonder if like part of it was, you know, he hadn't done anything really huge in 10 years, and now he's dead. So
right, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Was Sleepers widely regarded at the time? I mean, that was even before Apt Pupil, I know, but
yeah,
that was.
I'm not
big,
sure.
wasn't it?
And you know, Ghost World had some notoriety. Like you said, The Informers, people know about that movie, but definitely Apt Pupil is his most famous work, except maybe Tom and Huck.
Yeah,
with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Yeah. And there's also, he has a movie in 1995 called The Cure. Do you guys remember that movie?
No.
It had Joseph Mazzello, who was the kid from Jurassic Park.
Right, in the Pacific.
And the Pacific, and he was one of the guys who founded Facebook in the social network as well.
That's right.
And I remember I loved The Cure. The Cure's fantastic. Joe Mazzello played this kid who was dying of AIDS, and Brad Renfro befriends this young Joseph Mazzello, and they go like on a search for this cure for AIDS, and it's just good. It's a fantastic movie.
That just reminds me of that episode of South Park. I'm so sorry.
Is that what they're doing though? Are they ripping off The Cure?
Oh, I don't know actually. I don't know. I don't think so, but I just remember in South Park every time they mention, "Are you sure?" They're like, "I'm not just sure. I'm HIV positive." Horrible.
So far, taking the somber thing seriously.
That was my masturbation joke of the week, because that wasn't even a masturbation joke, but last week I made a masturbation joke before we started talking about Schindler's List.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Inappropriateness.
Yeah, I should stop talking.
We keep it classy here on the Obsessive Viewer.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up Brad Renfro though, Tiny, because I've only seen of his entire resume Sleepers and 10th and Wolf.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never seen Apt Pupil, despite being a big Stephen King fan. And I don't even remember. I wouldn't be able to pick him out, honestly.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just because I've seen those two movies and I haven't seen them in a long time. Like, I think the last time I saw Sleepers was, oddly enough, like over at your house when you had a bunch of people staying the night.
Yeah.
Kind of like back in high school. So that's kind of a weird thing to show people how to sleep over, but still. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'll have to check out more of his work, though, because... Oh, and I also saw The Informers, but like I said, kept falling asleep.
Definitely check out Apt People, because that's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on a Stephen King novella.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I wanted to bring him up first, because I don't know, I feel like he was very underrepresented. So.
Right.
And I kind of miss him, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Where do you think his career would have been after, or if he hadn't died?
It's hard to tell with someone who's an addict like that, you know.
Right.
If he could have, you know, pulled a Robert Downey Jr. and gotten it all together, you know, he could have been like Robert Downey Jr. in my opinion.
Nice.
I just think he was really talented and just didn't quite. If he would have had more time, he really would have been able to, you know, stretch his acting wings, if you will. So yeah, that's my first one.
Nice. Mike, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. The first celebrity that left us too soon, I guess is a sensitive way to say it, that really affected me was Chris Farley. Mm-hmm. And he died on December 18th, 1997. And at the time, he and Adam Sandler were my idols. Do you guys remember Schmidt's Gay beer? The commercial on SNL for Schmidt's Gay beer?
Vaguely, yeah.
A little bit.
Is absolutely one of my all-time favorites. You know, it's just a send-up of beer commercials when they go into this like summer house, this pool house, and it's really lame and they don't know what to do, and then somebody brings out Schmidt's Gay beer, and then there's a bunch of dudes in Speedos walking around, and Sandler and Farley are like looking at them doing double takes. Whoa! It is hilarious. Perfect send-up of like 80s and 90s beer commercials.
Nice.
So anyway, the SNL skit came out. He was in one of my favorite scenes from Wayne's World where he played the security guard explaining where Alice Cooper goes. And after that, I kind of just consumed everything that Farley did. Anyway, in 1994-1995 season, SNL let go of a bunch of cast members. So Chris Farley and David Spade made Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. Both movies made a little over $30 million, and they both won the box office in their respective releases. Most people, me included, I would guess you guys do think Tommy Boy is the better film. You guys agree with that?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And that actually surprises me that Black Sheep got that much of a response, because I honestly thought that it was kind of the black sheep of those two movies. I thought that it wasn't right.
Well, I will say, and I don't have the exact weeks, and I'm embarrassed. Black Sheep did not stay in the top 20 as long as Tommy Boy did.
Okay, I wouldn't have expected.
And in fact, Tommy Boy didn't so much either. It really found a cult following, you know, on VHS. Anyway, fun facts about the two. Gene Siskel called Black Sheep the one of only 3 movies he's ever walked out on. And Tommy Boy is in Ebert's most hated list, but I don't really like Black Sheep, but I think the hate for Tommy Boy is unfair. It's definitely a cult classic, especially now. It's endlessly quotable. It is also one of many movies. Here's another fun fact that includes the famous Star Wars misquote, "Luke, I am your father."
Yeah, with the fan,
right? When he's talking into the fan, and he has the skeleton hand thing.
Yeah,
which he later flips off David Spade with.
He does, exactly.
Classic.
Anyway, so I love Tommy Boy. I love all that stuff. But when I really became a Farley fanatic, I guess that's what they called us, was with Beverly Hills Ninja. Funny enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was his first starring role. So check this out. I got it for my birthday in November when it came out. I was like 11 years old. It was my 11th birthday. And my brother Kevin and I watched it literally, not kidding, every day for about 2 weeks after I got the VHS
Nice.
from my grandma for my birthday. So the movie, let's do a little math. The movie was released in January of 97. The VHS came out later. I got it in November. So if you've been doing the math, he died about 5 weeks after I received the VHS. Wow. And I was absolutely crushed.
Oh, man.
Wow. I was devastated. Like up to then, I'd never been connected to an actor before. Like it was always characters or Ninja Turtles or Spider-Man. But I had never cared about an actor and followed an actor's work. And it was like, I remember just sitting around and watching the news of it and being like, well, he'll come back, right? He'll do another movie.
Wow.
And then when Almost Heroes came out, do you remember that with Matthew Perry?
Yeah.
Posthumously.
Yeah.
I was like too sad to see it, and I've still never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Wow, that's it's interesting. It's interesting that you connected with Beverly Hills Ninja, because I wasn't that into it or anything. I don't even remember if I ever saw it. But Tommy Boy was like I loved that movie growing up. That was like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So when I found out that he died, I was kind of like, it was kind of a weird thing because he was very energetic. He had a lot of he had extraordinarily high energy.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. I don't think I picked up on any of this as a kid, but I know my parents were both kind of like, well, he's clearly like very much into like heavy drugs and stuff like that. Which
Oh yeah.
which so when he died, it was kind of like this thing where I'm like, I'm shocked, but my parents they're like, well, that was expected.
Yeah.
Wow.
So not that they're insensitive or anything like that. It was just kind of like it didn't affect them quite as much. And we used to watch
Right.
Saturday Night Live all the time.
Right.
Well, that's true, and he also, like, in everything he did, emulated John Belushi, who was his idol, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so Farley died at the John Hancock Center in Chicago, which also hit home because I grew up in Chicago, in his apartment, which on what was it? It was cocaine and morphine, which is
Something like
very
that, yeah.
extremely similar to the way John Belushi died, and it was just eerie and sad. It was sad.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah, can't go wrong with Chris Farley.
Yeah. So that's the notable one for me. Wish he was in more movies. Love them all. Coneheads, Wayne's World. Billy Madison is the bus driver.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that brings it to me. If we want to move on to the next one.
Yep.
That's you.
Cool. I have a few on my list that, but I want to start with the first one. One that I haven't. I'm not by any means a fan of this guy. I mean, I've never watched anything that he was in, but I wanted to bring him up because it's recent and I have something to share about it. I guess Cory Monteith, who was in Glee.
Okay.
He died suddenly of some kind of drug overdose, I guess. And like I said, I've never watched Glee ever, but circumstances presented themselves to where I watched his memorial episode, and it didn't sit right with me.
Oh, explain.
For some, it's hard to say without sounding. I don't know how it's going to come across. Insensitive or something, but like Glee and Mike, maybe you can back me up because you've watched some episodes of Glee.
I have. I probably watched. I know that I watched the entirety of the first season, and I either quit about 3 episodes into the third season, or toward the end of the second season. I don't remember.
Okay, would you say that they made an effort to address certain issues?
That was the downfall of the show.
Okay, and would you say that
I don't mean to get into a review of Glee, but quickly I'll say that early on I absolutely loved the show, and it really succeeded in being a show about underdogs, lovable losers who had a talent and kind of did their thing, and then it all became so message heavy, and every episode was a new like they were advocates for something of the week, and I'm an advocate for gay rights, but it became very gay rights heavy at the sacrifice of interesting stories. So I stopped watching the show after a while.
Okay, well,
sorry,
that's fine. That's perfect, actually. I was under the impression that that's what the show is like. And when I saw the memorial episode, it seemed like a prime situation for them. Because I assume that they have plenty of impressionable young viewers who they've heard about, like, their favorite character from Glee passing away in real life from a drug overdose. Wouldn't that be like a perfect situation to address that kind of problem? And kind of address it as like have it be like, hey, don't use drugs or whatever. But instead, it was. I mean, and I understand it, but it was the entire episode was just one huge love fest for the character that he played, and it was weird. And it was like they made an enormous effort not to reference the drug the drugs or anything like that, or the way that he died. Because it was like, I guess his brother in the show or someone was like, people keep asking me why, how he died, and it doesn't matter how he died, it's just how he lived or something like that. And it's like, yeah, but there's also a lot of people that watch the show that might think like, oh, well, you know, I don't know, impressionable people, you would think that they would address the drug issue as something that even a show that is so message heavy would jump at the opportunity to address something as substantial as drug use.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
It's interesting that was your qualm with it, was that it wasn't...
Oh, I had a lot of other qualms.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because usually it's the opposite. Usually people, it's like, oh, they're just trying to capitalize on his death, you know,
Right.
by making this message, or, you know, having an agenda, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
It seemed like that's the one situation where they would have been within their rights to do a message-heavy episode, and
True, yeah.
not have it be like opportunistic or jumping at something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, you know, it also makes sense they don't want to attack this guy and the way he died. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That would be almost a little insensitive.
Right. But they could have been delicate about it and been like, hey, people have demons too. Even great people like this guy have demons, and they view this as an option. It's not an option or anything. Just something simple and as basic a message as that, without even becoming overbearing. But they purposely sidestepped any reference to any kind of drug use.
Right.
Which I thought was just a really strange way to go about it, I guess. But
right.
Yeah. But like I said, I had other problems with it, but that's just problems with the show as a whole. And I can't really go into critiquing the series because I've only seen that one episode.
I will say he was probably my favorite cast member.
Really?
Early on, he was, you know, as far as the archetypes, he was kind of cast as the attractive male lead, you know, to complement Lea Michelle's female lead.
Okay.
And he was great. I loved the early stuff. The show really tanked, and I think the general consensus is that it has.
Right.
I don't think I'm alone, but he was one of my favorites. He was pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought that was just an interesting thing to bring up for my first topic of the episode.
Cool.
Very good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Cool. I guess I'm up again.
That's you.
Interestingly, the first ones that all three of us named were all drug overdoses. Kind of interesting. And all were. How old was Chris Farley when he passed away?
Oh man, I wish I had it quickly. He was probably 30 something. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, they were all young, and you know. So yeah, we kind of went in the same vein there for that first one. He
was 33.
Next,
Sorry.
33. Okay. No, that's cool. The next actor I'm going to bring up is different than those. Actually, it's an actress. Her name is Natalie Wood.
Okay.
Hopefully you've heard of her. She is a really great actress. She's most famous for her role in West Side Story, where she plays the female lead, which is a pretty cool movie if you haven't seen it, and if you're gay like me. But no, she was nominated for like 3 Oscars, which I didn't even realize until I kind of started looking into her again for this episode. And she's most known for a film where her character sings, but it wasn't even her voice. She's kind of famous for that too. That movie's kind of famous for it. A lot of the actors didn't sing their own songs; they just lip synced during the scenes, and that's what she's best known for. So it's kind of ironic that these other movies that she was in, that she was nominated for Oscars and were really good movies, that people don't really think of them. Like, for example, she was nominated for an Oscar when she was 17 years old for the movie Rebel Without a Cause, which is pretty. You know, that's another iconic film, and I think people kind of forget about that. But and also, there's a lot of mystery surrounding her death. She died. She drowned to death, and she was only 43 years old. And there was, it's interesting. Her death was called an accident for a long time, But then just last year, in 2012, the investigation was reopened. And it was actually reclassified as an undetermined death. It's kind of interesting. I don't remember what kind of evidence they have for it. I don't think they really clarified it, but it's interesting. Even after 30 years, her the investigation for her death has been reopened. So
that is crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And another another interesting thing about it is that she drowned to death, and one of her greatest fears was of water. It was one of her greatest fears to drown to death. I think she had a bad experience on a movie set when she was really young, and she almost drowned, and it haunted her for the rest of her life and scared her for the rest of her life. And it's a bit nefarious that's how she would meet her end, is by drowning. So there is definitely some mystery there, and a lot of people think that she was murdered, and it'd be interesting if they actually do successfully investigate the case and get us some more information. But she was a really great actress, and she was really beautiful and really talented, and it was definitely sad when she died.
Yeah, so she was married to Robert Wagner, who, in addition to a lot of stuff, was also in Austin Powers. He played number 2.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, he was suspected for a while of being involved in her death in some way.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
But they could never pin him on anything. That is tragic. That's sad.
Wow.
Yep.
That's interesting. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but
right.
So yeah, I think Mike, you're up next.
That is me. I'm going to talk about another one that affected me. I guess I'm kind of going in chronological order here. It is John Ritter. And what I loved so much about John Ritter, this one is a little less message, I guess. There's nothing sinister, except maybe at the hands of fate, and no drugs or alcohol involved. Anyway, John Ritter died on September 11th, 2003, and it really bothered me a lot, because it was like right in the midst of this renaissance in John Ritter's career. The first time I ever had any exposure to John Ritter was from the movie Problem Child. Have you guys ever seen Problem Child?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The classic, as well as the sequel, Problem Child 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in the movie It.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So John Ritter was fantastic. It was always his brand of humor was, I don't want to say wholesome because it kind of softens him a little too much. But he was family friendly. Even when he was on Three's Company, which ended before I was born, and he was playing a straight man pretending to be gay so he could live with the two girls in the apartment.
Right.
But I loved that show. I loved Problem Child. And so I kind of forgot about John Ritter for a long time until 2002 when 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter came out with John Ritter, Katie Sagal, Kaylee Cuoco, who of course is now super huge megastar for The Big Bang Theory. And I just thought the show was hilarious. I couldn't tell you what the ratings were of the show, but I'm pretty sure they were quite successful, and I remember it tanked after he died. So that really bummed me out a lot because I remembered him from Problem Child, and then I was so excited that he was back, and I would even talk to my friends about 8 Simple Rules and how, man, it's so cool that John Ritter's back, and they'd be like, what do you mean back? I'm like, well, because he was on that show from before we were born. And so when he died, that was a bummer. He also died on the same day as oh man.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Cash. I'm so embarrassed that it took me so long.
Wow.
They were like a day apart.
Yep. Oh, I thought they died on the same day.
I think it's like a day or two apart. Because I remember when Johnny Cash died.
He also died 6 days before his
Johnny
birthday.
Cash died the next day, September 12th.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there's no controversy or anything like that around it, but actually, if I remember correctly, his wife, Amy Yazbek, who was in Wings, she filed like lawsuits or wanted criminal investigations or whatever done to the doctors because he died of I believe it was an aortic aneurysm, which that also kind of freaked me out a little bit because maybe 2 years before that, my dad had one and he had to have open heart surgery and had to have like I think it was like a triple bypass. So that was like so I knew in my head I knew like I knew the problems with that and how it can go undetected and how it could be, it's a silent killer because I mean like he was walking around with this aneurysm, had no idea, and then once it bursts he's just almost instantly dead.
Right.
And I guess he had seen the doctor maybe for chest pains, I believe, within a week before he died, and they just overlooked it. They didn't find it or anything, and so I believe his wife was trying to sue them, but I don't know if anything came of it or anything. But
no, you're right. Ritter's family received more than $14 million in settlements, including $9.4 million from Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank, where he died. Now that's from Wikipedia, so take that for what it is.
Right.
But you're right. I guess that is a little bit of controversy. It's not sinister. I mean, it is of natural causes, but I guess perhaps slightly preventable. Let me make it a correction. I'm going to correct myself and apologize and explain my confusion. Johnny Cash died at 2 a.m. Central Time on September 12th, so I think I heard about the news at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
On September 12th. So that explains my my mistake.
Right. Yeah,
and Ritter died at 10:48 p.m. on September 11th, so I found out about the next day.
Right.
Okay.
But even though John Ritter was in his 50s when he passed, it was definitely before his time. You know, I think
absolutely.
Well, he definitely had a lot more to do. You know, like you said, his career was having a bit of a resurgence. So, and he was. People maybe just think of him as a funny guy, but he was a really talented actor. He did a lot of good dramatic roles as well. Most notably, in my opinion, is Sling Blade, which is a really good movie. He was fantastic in that, especially up against powerhouse dramatic acting. That was I was impressed with him in that. So I definitely think he had a lot more to offer. Still a lot more to do and make people laugh and make people cry. He was a really great actor.
Yep, seemed like a good guy too.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
I know everybody always kind of says that when somebody dies, but I always kind of thought that about John Ritter. Even before he died, I just thought he was a he was a guy who could be like your dad's friend that you kind of love just hanging out with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he did a great turn on Scrubs. He played JD's dad.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
They actually had an episode where JD's brother came on the show, and he was like, "Yeah, Dad's dead," and they did a whole episode around John Ritter's death, but under the guise of JD's dad dying.
Right.
Yeah, but his one episode that he actually did while he was alive was really good. Yep. Whose turn is it? Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's my
I think so.
Okay, well, going on to an actor that I'm actually familiar with. In 2008, early 2008, January, Heath Ledger passed away.
Yeah.
Was that it? Yeah, January 22nd, 2008. And I have this kind of thing where I remember where I was. I was taking a class for something, I don't know, class for whatever. And it was in a computer lab, and I was on the computer, and like I was kind of like, it was before class and everything, and like I went and I clicked on, like it was like Yahoo News or something like that, and said like Heath Ledger died, and I was like, oh my god, what does that mean for The Dark Knight?
God.
Oh.
But and then once the shock kind of came in, I was like, it was really tragic because he was in Brokeback Mountain, which was one of my favorite movies of that year of 2005, and he was. It was just a powerful performance.
Sorry to interject. I call Brokeback Mountain one of the 3 best movies from the early aughts.
Agreed.
I agree.
From the 2000s, it is in my top 3, no doubt.
I think it's definitely in my top 5 or 10.
Yeah. Funny enough, Dark Knight is also in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was just an actor who, let's see, he came onto the scene, I guess. He did some TV. This may have been like Australian TV or something, like the early to mid 90s. And then, I mean, he did like 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a really good movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then also The Patriot. And then he did a lot of good supporting roles.
Oh, you forgot A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale, yeah. That was next after The Patriot. I guess he was the star of that, but he was also a good supporting character in Monsters Ball. But he did a lot of great stuff, and you could tell, like especially in The Dark Knight, that he was gonna go places. Like he was gonna be great, like him, like in that, and also in Brokeback Mountain. So it just came as a huge shock to me, and again, it's another drug overdose thing. I guess he couldn't sleep or something.
It's
kind of
it was an accidental intoxication.
Yeah.
From prescription drugs, and this is. Man, this might be a little insensitive, but I remember after it happened and all the speculation that came out, being the big comic book fan that I am and the even bigger Dark Knight fan that I am. No, that's not true. I'm a bigger comic fan than I am Dark Knight. Anyway, so when The Dark Knight came out and Heath Ledger died shortly after, and they said that he started taking these prescription drugs to like sleep aids and things like that. As a result of having to get into this weird headspace of the Joker. So I remember thinking it was really eerie and creepy. A couple of friends and I were speculating that like the Joker killed him, which is not true because he was filming the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus when he died. But I just remember it hit me really hard when he died. I was just so like... surprised. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Right, and talk about going out on top, so to speak. I know that's it pales in comparison to the loss of someone, but just it was an extraordinary circumstance. I'll put it that way. One of the if not the biggest, most powerful, influential films of the decade was about to come out, and he was going to be the leading force of it, essentially. It was just an incredible circumstance that's when he passed away. The timing was interesting. I'll put it that way. Yeah, not to be insensitive.
Yeah, I agree. And he was, I don't have the short list with me, but that I can remember, probably the most deserving of a posthumous Oscar.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
At least in recent memory. But what I mean by that is that he probably would have won it if he was alive.
Right.
Which, again, not to be insensitive, but I don't know that that's always true.
Yeah.
He was just unbelievably fantastic. It's so rare to truly see actors transform into characters, but Heath Ledger was not in The Dark Knight. The Joker was in The Dark Knight, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I remember just being blown away when I first saw the trailer and thinking. I mean, I could not recognize him. I watched the trailer a dozen times, and I could not see Heath Ledger in that trailer whatsoever.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And the movie didn't disappoint, obviously, but it's crazy to think like where would his career have gone after The Dark Knight? Because, I mean, that would have been just monumental for him.
You wonder, and this is bad. You wonder if you wonder how successful The Dark Knight would have been had he not died, because it was deservedly and absolutely a box office smash. It was a blockbuster movie, but it was also a cult movie, which I know the definition of cult is usually it's not very popular upon initial release, and then it finds a cult somewhere else. But there was a Dark Knight cult and then there was the huge blockbuster. Everybody and their brother saw it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't think that cult would have existed.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, he was really a transformative actor. Even mentioning his other greatest performance, we talked about Brokeback Mountain. I think he was that was a huge transformation for him as well. Brokeback Mountain. He's almost unrecognizable in that. Right. The voice, the accent that he adapted for that. Clearly, he was really incredibly talented and inflecting his voice that way. So yeah, he was the best kind of actor. He could completely just you forgot that you were watching a Heath Ledger movie. That was his talent.
I'm looking at the best actor nominees in 2005 when Heath Ledger was nominated for Brokeback Mountain, and man, that is a tough category. Best actor, the winner was Philip Seymour Hoffman for Capote. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't really like the movie all that much, but he was good in it. Right. Terrence Howard for Hustle and Flow, and then Joaquin Phoenix in Walk the Line, which I think was the favorite, at least until Capote came out. Mm-hmm. And then David Strathairn in Good Night and Good Luck.
Oh, no.
Tough year.
Yeah,
it's tough year to have the movie of your life.
Right.
And I thought the greater tragedy was that Brokeback Mountain should have won the Oscar for Best Picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially over Crash.
Oh my gosh, yeah. One of the absolutely the biggest ripoff since Shakespeare in Love beat Saving Private Ryan in 1998.
Totally,
hands down.
Nice. Yeah, I agree.
My favorite. Yeah. Oh, sorry. My favorite thing about that Oscar telecast was Jon Stewart. After they announced the winner for Best Music or whatever, but he came out and he was like, just so everyone counting at home is counting, 3-6 Mafia, 1 Oscar, Martin Scorsese, 0.
Yeah.
Which funny. They of course won for Hustle and Flow.
But he won one the next year, so that's okay.
Yeah, he did.
That's funny. Yeah, Crash. Ugh.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember. It's very much a tangent here. That movie, or when that year, 2005, I don't think I saw Brokeback Mountain. No, I did see Brokeback Mountain before the Oscars that year. But I remember Good Night and Good Luck was my favorite going into the Academy Awards at that time. Yeah. It wasn't until the second time I saw Brokeback Mountain that I really loved it and I really got it. I don't know.
It's weird because at the time of that those movies were coming out, it was freshman year and we were at USI and I was going for journalism and I was offered extra credit for seeing Good Night and Good Luck. Still haven't seen the movie. My girlfriend at the time, who you might remember, Matt. I do remember vividly. It haunts my nightmares.
I think this is like the third time I've mentioned her on the podcast. So I got to say, I'm married to a lovely woman, Amanda White. It's just to make sure I mention her more times on the podcast than my ex-girlfriends.
Right. Well, anyway, she was on the podcast at one point, so
she was. That's true.
Good.
Amanda, not Sarah.
Right.
Anyway, she had the same assignment. And we went to see Good Night and Good Luck, and they started the movie like 30 minutes early.
Oh, wow.
So they gave us free tickets to see it again.
Nice, yeah.
So I saw it 1.5 times, and then we. Can I say this on the air? Will it come back? I guess if I'm running for president, we snuck in to see Walk the Line. So I saw Walk the Line for free.
Nice,
wow. You son of a bitch!
I know. Interesting fun fact about our freshman year, Maddie. Do you know the first movie we saw in theaters in Evansville at college? You, me, and my ex-girlfriend?
No, I can't think of anything. I can't think of it.
We saw The Brothers Grimm.
Are you sure? Did you
see it with us?
I don't think I saw it with you.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Damn.
That would have been a good way to wrap it up or bring it.
It would have been great. Yeah. Brothers Grimm was the first movie I saw in Evansville, and you and I lived together.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks for the invite for that, and for Good Night, Good Luck.
I didn't know you yet. I was trying to get out of the apartment.
Right.
I don't know. He just sits around and watches Friends all day. We gotta go.
It's so weird. It's so weird. He wants to sync up the final season. It's weird.
Yeah. No, you know that was me.
Oh, that was all you. Oh, yeah.
That's so awesome. Good times.
Yeah.
Brothers Grimm.
How was that?
It was not good. It was
Oh,
stupid.
Yeah.
But Heath Ledger, of course.
Yeah, Heath Ledger,
For those who don't know.
It was sad to see him go, and I mean, and I feel like they even tried to generate some controversy over that because like one of the Olsen twins found like he was in her apartment or something, and they found her. So, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just weird how the media will contort these things for that, and so.
And also, I remember Terry Gilliam being upset that, I think he directly accused Christopher Nolan, but also the producers and the, marketing people for The Dark Knight. They kind of he accused them of trying to capitalize on his death to promote the film and say that it was his last film when really it wasn't. Stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Have you guys seen Dr. Parnassus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. It's a cool movie.
It is cool.
It's cool. I don't love it.
Has Andrew Garfield in it.
It does.
Which he was really good.
Terry Gilliam is an acquired taste, really.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes he's fantastic. Sometimes he's a little too weird.
Yeah.
It's just he's kind of he's never bad though. You know what I mean?
But the best movie of his that I've seen is his most normal movie, I believe, is 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
Which is just fantastic. But
Brazil is a close second.
Still never seen that.
Yeah, it's a weird flick.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this out there just for our podcast listeners. I hate Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
It is a very overrated film.
It is.
Absolutely.
I own it because I own it. But
yeah,
Same
it
here.
was one of 3 movies that were integrated into my collection when I got married.
Oh,
I see.
And Amanda, I think it was one of Amanda's ex-boyfriends DVDs anyway.
wow.
So we're running low on time. I think we got Tiny. Do you want to do your last one?
Yeah, sure. My last one is the always hilarious and enjoyable Phil Hartman, who also, not young when he died, but definitely before he was done. He still had a lot more to do.
Yeah.
Most famous for Saturday Night Live, of course.
Yep.
He was hilarious on Saturday Night Live. So many epic characters. Frankenstein, and when he did, I think he did. Did he do Clinton at the time?
He did Clinton once, maybe once or twice early on, and it was pre-Monica Lewinsky scandal. And he's going for a run, and he goes into the restaurant, and he's eating. I want to say McDonald's, but I could be mistaken. Mm-hmm. And he says something about how, Hillary won't want you to eat that. And he goes, oh, there's going to be a lot of things we'll do that we won't tell Hillary about.
That is awesome.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what a tragic death, too. I mean,
oh my gosh, yes.
Man. I remember.
Do you want to tell it, Tiny?
Yeah, Tiny, do you want to tell it?
Sure. He was horribly murdered. That's the only way to put it. He had been divorced a few times, had kind of a rocky marriage, to say the least. His wife was Bryn Omdahl. I think that's how you say her name. And so they had a rocky marriage at best, and she had issues with drugs, and she was kind of abusive. And unfortunately, in May of 1998, she shot him and then killed herself in Los Angeles.
I feel like she had some mental disorders as well.
I think it was a whole cornucopia of issues she had, if I remember correctly. So it was. I remember when it happened. It was really just not the kind of death you expect to see, I guess, from a celebrity like that. Typically it's accidental or drug overdose, something like that. But it was really shocking the way he was killed, especially for someone who is perceived as being so nice and just like a really funny guy, pleasurable, jolly to be around with. You wouldn't expect him to be horrifically murdered by someone, not to be funny about it or make light of it, but it's just It's just not something that you would expect from a comedy actor.
Yeah, it's really a shame.
Yeah.
Right.
I know him best as the voice actor, as the cartoon voice actor.
Troy McClure.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as, so on and so forth. And then of course, even most famously, I think this is the third time we've mentioned it on the podcast, the monorail episode of The Simpsons, written of course by Conan O'Brien, features Lionel Hutz. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
who tries to sell the monorail to Springfield, and Phil Hartman played Lionel Hutz, and that was one of my favorites. And he was also because he was only like a guest star. He was a frequent guest star, but he was kind of one of the first people on The Simpsons like I recognized as somebody. And he did all kinds of things, man. I'm looking. He was a voice on Scooby-Doo, DuckTales, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, cartoon, Tailspin, Tiny Toons Adventures, Captain Planet, Darkwing Duck, Tom and Jerry Kids, just all kinds of Eek the Cat, Animaniacs.
Wow. Yeah, he did a lot.
A lot of stuff.
He was a great cameo actor as well. One of the funniest parts of the movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer, which is a great movie. Michael Myers is just fantastic.
Mike Myers.
Well, same thing.
You know what's funny? When we were doing Halloween, you called Michael Myers Mike Myers.
Did I?
Wow.
You weirdo.
They have the same name, semantics.
This
Anyways,
podcast just got super nerdy. Like Matt and I just like pushed up our glasses that are put together by tape. Actually, it's Mike Myers.
Yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But anyways, So I Married an Axe Murderer, a hilarious movie, but he has a fantastic cameo in it as a tour guide at Alcatraz. It's where he just tells this really inappropriate story. It's so funny. I always remember him for stuff like that. And in my opinion, he's my favorite part of the movie Jingle All the Way. Which is just kind of a stupid, silly movie,
Well, let's not get carried away, Tiny. That's a classic.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Let's not overlook A, Sinbad, and B, perhaps more importantly, Jake Lloyd.
Yes.
True. And Jim
Pretty
Belushi.
Anakin Skywalker.
Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi, yes.
Yeah.
Also, about Jake Lloyd, there was... anytime I watch it now, I imagine, like, what if it's, like, a prequel to the prequels to Star Wars, and, like, what if this is, like... what really set Anakin Skywalker down the road to the dark side is finding out that his father didn't get him his favorite toy for Christmas.
Well, as a Star Wars fan, I can't let you go on thinking that. The events of Star Wars, including the prequels, take place a long time ago.
Oh, my reality
in a galaxy
is
far, far
shattered.
Well,
away.
I can get the galaxy far, far away. You never know. Turbo Man has powers we've not yet seen.
Time travel.
A long time ago says it all, my friend.
Yeah.
Time travel's the answer to that. But
Yeah.
as for Phil Hartman's death, I remember vividly. I wanted to share this anecdote. I know we're running short on time, I guess, but it's kind of morbidly humorous, I would say. I wouldn't call it funny, but I remember finding out that Phil Hartman died. I woke up one morning and my dad was in my room, and he was like, I was 12 at the time, and he may have woken me up to tell me this because we watched Saturday Night Live all the time, and we watched Jingle All the Way, all that stuff. And he was like, hey, he started the conversation with, hey, you know who Phil Hartman is. And what that tells me is that something horrible has happened to Phil Hartman, because my entire family throughout all of my life has prefaced tragic news with, hey, you know that one guy? Or, hey,
Oh,
you know
no.
this? Yeah. Hey, you know the World Trade Center? No, that's not how it happened. But it's just like that's how my family breaks the news. So, and I mean, it's to the point where occasionally, like, they'll say, like, oh, yeah, you know your cousin so-and-so? Yeah, they just had a baby. And I'm like, oh, good. That's great. Yeah. But yeah, this, I kind of just I knew that, and then that was kind of that was just kind of how I found out, and obviously I was very affected by it because I was a huge fan of his, especially Jingle All the Way. But yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really don't want to have to do a sequel to this episode.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to.
These are just getting sad. But there's all kinds of more. And so, listeners, if you think of any or you have favorites, please let us know. We don't mean to overlook or slight the losses of your favorite actors or celebrities.
Right.
So say something to us. Tell us your stories. Who meant something to you that died? You can tweet us, of course. At all the familiar places. You can send us an email, ovpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on the Facebook page or just go to obsessiveviewer.com. When you download this, you can leave us a review on iTunes and just say, hey, these guys are pretty good, but they're idiots because they forgot to mention blank, your favorite celebrity who left us too soon here. Mm-hmm. So I think that does it. Should we stink up this joint with some potpourri?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. This, of course, is Potpourri, where we talk about whatever we want, as long as it smells nice. Let's see. I guess I'll kick it off. I just watched Wreck-It Ralph again.
That movie was so good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So much. I actually just bought the Blu-ray, and I have a funny kind of anecdote about it. Obviously, the movie's it's phenomenal. It's as a piece of trivia, it's the first non-Pixar animated movie I've bought on Blu-ray, which is a monumental thing for me because I'm a huge Pixar fanboy. But it's a great movie. It's full of nostalgia for video games. If you love any kind of video game, you'll love Wreck-It Ralph. And John C. Reilly is just fantastic, as is Jack McBrayer as Fix-It Felix. But anyway. Something funny happened while I was watching it last night. My nephew came into my room. I mean, I was watching the kids' movie with my nephew, is what I mean. No, but my nephew's like 2.5. And he pressed a button on my remote, and just out of nowhere popped up a different, like a new, like a picture-in-picture kind of feature on it. And it was just Chris Hardwick was just there. And it was basically he hosts this it's called Intermission, actually, not to be confused with our friends at the Intermission podcast, but it's called Intermission, where you control it. It guides you through the movie, and it breaks away to Chris Hardwick saying like, hey, this is a reference to this video game, or this is a reference to this thing from childhood, and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool. I was just surprised because, I mean, obviously, Chris Hardwick is everywhere, and I just had no idea that he was on my Wreck-It Ralph Blu-ray. So it was a nice surprise. And of course, the movie's fantastic. I love it so much.
It's a great movie. It's so creative. I mean, there's been a lot of really great creative animated films over the last couple of years, but I think that one is in the top 3 most creative movies. Just such an incredible idea for a movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it used to be Pixar versus DreamWorks, but now it's Pixar versus their brothers or their cousins, Disney Animation Studios versus DreamWorks versus a plethora of other animated studios that are coming out of the woodwork. And it's great because it inspires great competition. Like last year, Wreck-It Ralph was the best animated movie that I saw, and it beat Pixar, which released Brave, right?
Not at the Academy Awards.
Well, yeah, but in my personal opinion, it was better than Brave.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great. I actually remember in my Oscar poll I had Wreck-It Ralph picked for that, which was it was a huge deal. I know it shook the foundations of everyone in that Oscar poll.
Yeah, that movie is fantastic. I like watching it. I felt like a little kid for obvious reasons. But then at the end, I felt like a little kid because I was just like, why didn't they get more video game characters in there? Like I was ungrateful that it wasn't awesome enough.
Yeah. Well, that's what the sequel's for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. Tiny, how about you? What do you got for Potpourri?
The movie I wanted to talk about was Promised Land, which I finally watched. I've been meaning to watch it for a long time. If you don't know what it is, it's a movie that was directed by Gus Van Sant, but it was written and produced by Matt Damon. John Krasinski also wrote part of it.
That's right.
Which I didn't realize until I started watching it. But it's a movie about it kind of takes the issue of the whole natural gas boom that's going on right now. It's a message heavy movie. It's very preachy, which I figured it would be. Matt Damon is pretty political, so I figured it would be. But it's about, basically what these companies are doing is they're going into these small towns where all this natural gas is located under the ground, and they're trying to, basically make leases on people's land so they can put in these wells and get to this natural gas. And it's turning out that it's actually kind of dangerous. It can destroy the land, and it can poison the water and make people sick. It can, apparently. I've looked into it a little bit. It's a hot issue right now. So the movie's just kind of about that. It's about this guy who works for the gas company. He comes into this small town, and he tries to persuade the whole town, and then the citizens of the town individually into leasing their land to this gas company so they can drill for this natural gas. And John Krasinski plays a character who's like an environmentalist who comes in and tries to put a stop to it. And it's just about the clash there. And it was an interesting movie. I'll give him some credit. It was it had some creative parts to it. The characters were interesting. I liked John Krasinski's performance quite a bit, actually. But it was just so message heavy and so preachy that it was just kind of it's almost off-putting now to see something like that. So it's kind of worth a watch. It was an enjoyable movie. It wasn't great or anything, but check it out if you're interested in the issue. I think a better movie is actually a documentary called Gasland that came out a year or two ago. It was either nominated for or maybe it even won an Oscar for Best Documentary. It's a really good movie. It used to be on Netflix Instant. I don't know if it still is or not. But that's a better movie if you're curious about the subject, the underlying message, if you will. Okay. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. I kind of liked it.
Huh. So Tiny, you wouldn't say that it's a fracking good movie?
What?
I hate you so much.
What is that? I'm confused.
The process that they use to get to the natural gas is called fracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome, listeners. I mean,
that's good.
Feel free to have one.
That's stupid. You're dumb.
Feel free to use that. If and Gasland is at least here in the States, it is streaming on Netflix still.
Okay. So yeah, fracking was a term that was invented way before Battlestar Galactica, which it's used as an expletive on that show.
Yeah. It was actually...
And in Spider-Man 2099, I believe.
Oh, interesting. It was actually used specifically for this moment for me to use that joke. So it was coined for that purpose.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what do you got?
All right, wrapping it up here, I guess. I'll talk about a couple things. Two things specifically. I just, on Thanksgiving, watched The Hunger Games Catching Fire.
Oh, nice.
Which was a real treat.
Really?
Yeah, I was really disappointed. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, what did you think of the original Hunger Games first?
I didn't like the first one.
Okay.
I thought it was slow. I will say that I read the first book and about half of the second book, and I finished the first book literally a half an hour before I went to see the first movie. And I guess that had an effect on it, but I don't know. It just seemed like there was too much to put in the movie, and things that I felt were important to get across didn't come across, and it was just kind of boring. And I was confused about some things. I was wondering why nobody was revolting against the Capitol. Of course, we get those answers in Catching Fire. I thought Jennifer Lawrence was better this time. She's kind of growing into the role. I really, really love the evolution of Effie Trinket. I think she was awesome in the movie. I also like as in comparison to the books, they cut out a lot of, well, all of Katniss's internal monologue about which boy she is pining for, and so that she doesn't seem just like a girl, conflicted. She's definitely in love with Gale and not about PETA, and so I like that. It was more action-packed. There were some twists that I didn't expect coming. There was a big twist that I totally did expect, but it was fun to watch. It was really good.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing how it concludes. I'm not looking forward to the fact that there are two of them.
Right.
Yeah, same here.
In other words, I'll talk about a little bit about the future, kind of do a little bit of time traveling. Mm-hmm. If you follow our blog, or Matt's blog that we contribute to, on a daily basis, then you know that yesterday I posted a Thursday edition of Trailer Tuesday about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer. So I'm going to say today, which is recorded before Thursday for an episode that will be released on Friday, that I hope I really liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am really, really, really excited for it.
Nice.
They just have you guys seen the pictures on Twitter going around of the 3-panel poster?
No, I saw the little 20-second teaser for the trailer though.
Yeah, well, yeah, those are just him falling out of the sky. Those are cool. Those look very cool. But so the teaser is, and I'm going to say because people have seen it by now and they've seen the trailer by now. It's kind of got like Spider-Man. You see Spider-Man's back, and there's 3 panels on the right. To our right, Spider-Man's right, is Electro, of course. All the way to his left is Rhino in some mech suit, so not Paul Giamatti, just this mech Rhino. And in the center is some figure, some man on what appears to be a glider of sorts.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
So 3 villains seems like a lot. I mean, we all remember Spider-Man 3.
Yes, we do.
But I really like Andrew Garfield. I really hope they learn from the mistakes they made in the first movie. I was not a huge fan of The Amazing Spider-Man, but I'm just always excited for comic book news and especially Spider-Man news. So I'm looking forward today to that. I guess when this is released, I'm looking forward to the movie, unless yesterday I wrote that the trailer sucked.
Right. Let's not get carried away here though, because you kind of buried the lead there, or not really buried the lead, but you ignored this one thing. You also posted a Trailer Tuesday for X-Men: Days of Future Past.
I did, but there's more to say about that.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, check that out.
I posted that on Tuesday. Please read it.
Yeah, I'll put the links in there because it was a really good write-up of the expectations for the movie, and it got me excited to see it.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's a good compliment.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
I am very possibly more excited for Days of Future Past than I am for Amazing Spider-Man.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm a bigger Spider-Man fan.
Right.
More excited for X-Men because Amazing Spider-Man let me down, and First Class was fracking awesome.
Right. Is that everyone?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
right,
it.
Cool. Well, actually, before, do you want to say anything about Paul Walker? Because we kind of based this whole episode around the idea of we created this episode because of what happened to Paul Walker. So, anything you guys want to say?
I said earlier that She's All That is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, that's right.
I guess not because of Paul Walker, really, just because I love Rachel Lee Cook. But he genuinely seemed like a good guy. I gotta say, I really wasn't a fan of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, me neither.
But he was serviceable in them, and apparently he was very well liked. So it's always unfortunate when actors who we hear about all the time, especially in incredibly popular movies, leave us so early.
Right. Mm-hmm. Tiny, what did you think of Paul Walker?
I was a fan because I loved I really liked the Fast and Furious franchise. Right. Just strictly I feel like I have to defend it. Just strictly for a fun level. I mean, it's not like I thought they were great movies that were Oscar worthy and stuff. They were just fun movies, especially the the past couple ones have been so much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, he just seemed like a super nice guy, really, really, really nice. And he left behind a child. That's always sad,
Right.
And again, it died definitely before his time. I think he wasn't. He was a younger guy. He had a lot of years left to entertain us. So it's definitely sad. Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad, and I mean, like, his body of work. He had. I mean, he didn't have the most glamorous career, I guess. Like, not in terms of like meaty roles for his acting, but then again, like, he was a serviceable guy, like you guys said. He kind of. He fit an archetype for a while. Like, he was kind of the pretty boy, high school jock kind of guy, and She's All That, Pleasantville, some other ones too I can't think of. But he also kind of, I mean, he did some good work in some other things, like fun, like kind of teen thrillers like Joyride or The Skulls were a lot of fun. And then also probably my favorite performance of his, I haven't seen in a long time, but this movie called Running Scared that I think Tiny, you actually got me into. He plays like a detective or a cop. Yeah, it's like a really gritty movie. I don't remember the specifics. I think it has something to do with the Russian mob or something, but it was just a really cool movie and a really surprising performance. And it's also sad. Just, I mean, anytime a celebrity dies in a tragic accident like that, I mean, if you see the pictures of the wreckage, it's horrifying.
Yeah, it is.
But it's anytime that happens is sad. But it's yeah. There's something else I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. Yeah, it's just a tragedy. But I guess that about covers it, right?
Yep,
I think so.
All right. Well, like we said, you can follow us on Twitter. I just hit my mic. I'm Matt at Obsessive Viewer. Tiny's at Obsessive Tiny. Mike's at I am Mike White. You can find the blog at obsessiveviewer.com. Email us at ovpodcast@gmail.com. And like us on Facebook, Google Plus, all that stuff. Rate us and review us on iTunes. And then also vote for us for Podcast of the Month on Podcast Land. That would really help us out a lot because it's just like 2 minutes of your time. And then also, I meant to mention this when you were talking about Hunger Games, but our friends over at the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, they actually did a really good review of Catching Fire on their second episode, so check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys. Guess that about does it.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Balls.
All right. All right, we're recording if you want to bring us in, Mike.